Hey guys, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer. Nice to have you here. So, as the title of this video says, I took my driving test just over 24 hours ago. It was yesterday, late morning, and my mindset throughout and the night before, and pretty much even before then, but definitely the night before and in the morning was, if I could just get no more than 7 minors, I'd be so happy. I got 7 minors, but I also got a serious fault. So, a little story about the test itself on the day and how I was feeling. Hopefully this might inspire some other people who are in the same position. Now, without giving too much of a backstory, I have been learning for a long time. Like, we're talking months and months and months and months. Definitely into the years part, but if I added it up, like back to back, it would definitely, well, it would be a long time. Let's put it that way. I've spent a hell of a lot of money, a hell of a lot of proverbial blood, sweat, and tears has gone into this. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people that for some reason I just can't pick up driving as quickly and as easy as some people can. Some people take to it like a duck to water. Other people it takes them a little while, but they get it relatively quickly. And then there's people like me that try as I might, watching all the videos and trying to read the books, something just doesn't quite click. It just doesn't quite gel, and it's taken me a really long time to get to this point. But after cancelling and rebooking my test several times over the last couple of years, my instructor, who's a doll by the way, she's a great instructor, but she was basically like, "You're going to go for this test or not?" And I thought, you know what? Even though my mock tests aren't going great, and I always seem to get serious or dangerous faults, and if you don't know, if you get one major mark, that's it, game over. You can have up to, I believe it's 15 or 16 minor faults, but who honestly wants to get that? That's it's kind of a bit sketchy if you ask me. So hence, I was trying to aim for 7 or less, 7 minors or less, and I actually got 7 minors, and they were pretty much on the things that I thought I would get them for. So, but anyway, the night before the test, I'm so full of adrenaline. I wasn't really nervous, but I was just, I guess it's that antsy excitement, and there is some anxiety in there, but it's just you're really, it just, like shit gets real, as they say, especially by the next morning. Now, I will say, as a tip to any other people who may be looking to get their test, I had about the most perfect time and conditions you could want. So my test was at 11:11, which it ended up being about 20 past 11 by the time we got in the car. The weather was like today. I'm filming in the afternoon at the moment, so it was probably about the same kind of weather actually. It was probably about 15 degrees, something like that. So in other words, beautiful day. There was no one in the test centre, like zero, no people, no cars. So that was almost a little freaky. I'm sitting in the office in the waiting room, sorry, with my instructor. And at that point, I had a banana with me, and this is a tip you may or may not know, but I think it's to do with the potassium and magnesium. It helps calm you down, but also keeps you alert as well. And I had a banana. I wasn't really that hungry, but I forced a banana just before the guy came in to take me out for the test. And so you go out, and then you do the eyesight test where you have to read a license plate. And it was funny because my instructor said to me when we were at the doors of the building, she said, "Can you read that license plate over there?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, that's the distance." So when we came out, we stood like in the middle of the drain, and I'm thinking we're a bit close to this car. And he's like, "Yeah, so can you read that license plate over there, please?" And at first, where he was pointing to, I thought it was this car like way off in the distance. I was like, "What?" He said, "No, there was 2 license plate on the like the wire fence near the edge of the car park." And I think he's about 20 metres away, something like that. I was like, "Yeah, no problem." Did that. Then you get your show me, tell me question. So I had a tell me question. So as we're getting in the car, he says, how do you check for the tyre pressure? And Oh, so no, it was the one about how check for sufficient tread. That was it. So I said, it's with the uh, tire tire pressure gauge. I might have got that wrong. The tire depth gauge, I think I said. I think it's the right answer. But I said it has to be no less than 1.6 millimeters across 3/4 of the breadth of the entire tire, and no cuts or bulges. Boom, got that out of the way. So I get in the car. He goes and checks everything around. Now I don't have a car myself, so this is all my instructor's car, and I'll talk about the cost of that in a minute. So he gets in. He just explains about the tests. He was quite a nice guy. He wasn't particularly chatty, but I didn't really want that anyway. They asked the question of what would you be doing now if you weren't taking the test, and I said, well, job hunting. And I didn't really want to go too much into this is one of the reasons why I really need to drive so I can improve my chances to get a job. But the test route I did was one of the easy ones. There was a slight variation to it, and funny enough, that morning in my pre-test lesson, which I personally recommend having, we actually covered. I did a parallel park, which is not one of my strongest manoeuvres. I did a forward bay park on the test, but it was actually just past where I normally do the parallel park. So it was in this little tiny sort of car park on a slope, on a camber, and there was a learner coming out, and they were kind of like stop starting. So you're having to have good clutch control and thinking, oh, please don't let me steal the car. But long story short, I thought I drove pretty well on the test. And I suppose in one way I did, because there are a few meeting situations where somebody leapt out of a van onto a road that's already quite tight anyway, and there's oncoming cars, and there was an oncoming cyclist, so I had to wait for him. And the thing is, you're just so hyper aware. I wouldn't say there was slight nerves, but for me it was just that, again, that shit gets real. It's the hyper awareness. Like, my instructor said to me, I'll just look at it like a lesson. It's just a 40-minute lesson. But the thing is, that you're being marked. You know that you're being assessed and scrutinised, everything you do. So it's hard to kind of put that to one side. But if I've got any tips, I would say just try to focus as much as you can in your driving, because the more that, if you're anything like me and much of an overthinker and an overanalyzer, especially if you think you've made a minor mistake, it can end up compounding, and then the next thing you know, you've put more pressure on yourself, and more pressure leads to more mistakes or more chances of a mistake. So I've heard people say, including my instructor, the test goes by so quick. So you tell me in the comments if this was the same for you. For me, I was acutely aware that it was 40 minutes long. It didn't drag. It didn't whiz past either. I didn't look at I know I started about 20 past 7. I didn't look at the time on the clock. I was just kind of subconsciously aware it's not dragging, but it's not going quick enough. But as I remember coming up to, I think, the last 5-10 minutes, and I remember thinking, this is like famously where a lot of people get complacent and then they end up making silly mistakes, even right to the last minute in the test centre. I didn't get the emergency stop, which I'm not too bad at, so I wouldn't have been too freaked out if I had it, but I didn't get that. I said my manoeuvre was the forward bay parking, which I'm quite good at, so that was good. So as we get back to the test centre, and as you turn right into the junction to get to the test centre, it's a bit like a bend, but there was a lorry on my side, and there was another van and some cars on the other side, and there were like a few cars whizzing in and out. So not only did I hold back, but also there's the junction on this side coming up. So I thought, no, don't, what if you do, because I would have been overhanging that. So I was really thinking, keep it together, don't get cocky, don't get complacent. I'm not really a cocky person anyway, but you know what I mean. So I've done that, I've meandered through, turned into the car park, and the car park by the centre is very, very tiny, and again, it's on a bit of a slope. And he said, do a forward bay in. And I remember doing the forward bay in thinking, I don't know, I think I might be on the line with that one. But he said, if you just turn the engine off, we got out, walked to the car, came back in, and I was like, okay. Now at this point, I'm thinking, so just to go back a bit, just before I did the test, I went in thinking, I'll probably fail, but not in a negative, downbeat sort of way, just a realistic, I'll probably fail, but it would be really great if I pass. And there's no real reason that I can't pass. There's every reason I could fail, but there's also just as many good reasons that I can pass as long as I keep it together. think about what I'm doing, you know. And so at this point, I was about 60-40. I thought 60 fell, 40 pass. And he said, do you want the instructor to go with debriefing? Because I didn't want her in the car for the lesson. And I said, yes. So he said, oh, look, she's coming over now. So she comes over. And she gets to the car. And he says, basically, so on this occasion, I'm sorry to tell you that you failed. You weren't successful, whatever. And it was this roundabout that I come off. It's where you turn right at this roundabout and you go right again. And I always find this one a bit tricky, but one of the things that catches me out is not checking the mirrors properly. And this is exactly what I failed on. And I thought at the time, because it's weird, because you're trying to remember the test, but it's almost like surreal. It's almost like, it's not like I disassociated, but it's almost like I could remember bits of it, but I guess I was just so focused and hyper aware. But so I couldn't honestly tell you hand on heart whether I did move my head, but obviously I didn't. Even if I checked with my eyes, I didn't move my head enough, because he said, I didn't see you check the centre mirror or the left mirror or the right mirror when you moved into the right lane, because I think I was like, oh shit, I'm in the right lane, wrong lane, going to the right lane. There was no one behind me, thankfully. So I think at that point, I remember thinking subconsciously, oh, that's probably a minor, because I went into the other lane, but I didn't inconvenience anybody. And normally when I've practiced doing that roundabout, I've come off there, not looked, confused other drivers that I'm still going right round the roundabout and back off again, which I'm not. So anyway, so explain that. And I have to be honest, obviously I felt a bit gutted, but I didn't feel completely despondent. And I guess part of it is because I went in thinking there is a good chance I fail, but hopefully I won't. So I was prepared for it. And I think there's something to be said for, if you're someone that's not really sure and you're not really 100%. I'm not saying this is like golden advice, like do what I did, but for me anyway, it worked. Is to go in thinking, okay, there's two scenarios. I'm either going to pass or I'm going to fail. Hopefully there's not some extreme scenario where I end up in an accident or something like that. But I'm either going to pass or I'm going to fail when it comes down to it. So if I fail, I've already mentally prepared myself. I've already grounded myself for it. And I'm already thinking, okay, what's next? When can I book the next test, etc., etc. And if I pass, all golden, brilliant. I can dance a gym, go around celebrating. So he said that, and my instructor got in, and she said, I knew you failed. She said, as soon as they get out of the car and walk around, that's how I know. And I said, yeah, come to think of it, I didn't see him reach for a certificate, which usually means you've passed. So she drove me back, and I said, the thing is, the thing that bothers me more than anything, it's not retaking a test again. Now, I've heard from people back in the day where it was like, oh, you failed your test, you just booked, and within a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to 4 weeks, you had another test. But of course, if you're trying to book a test at the moment, you know that even with this thing where the DVSA have tried to tighten up on some of these dodgy companies and people buying tests and then selling them off for hundreds of pounds, which I'd never heard of that. I thought they were talking about you can get these apps, like I've got one now, I can't remember the name of it, but it basically finds test slot cancellations. I thought they were talking about that, because I'm thinking, well, they're not scams. It's literally just, once you have your official test booked with the DVSA, you can then go through one of these companies, and then they just find slots, save you having to go on the site and constantly refresh and constantly log in. But no, apparently there are, I guess, the equivalent of like ticket touts, but some dodgy people trying to sell tests for like hundreds of pounds, and sometimes they're just outright scams, and people pay the money and they disappear. Like there's no test at all. So the DVSA have really cracked down on that now, and that people can't just. I think people have to wait a minimum of 12 days. I think it is now before rebooking, rather than I think 3 days or a week or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm now back on the treadmill of having to find another test date, which could be whenever. But at least once I've got that, I can then use the app to then just find me a more suitable slot, which is actually what I did with the test I had yesterday. Because originally I think it should have been, I think when I looked originally, there were a couple of tests that came up in January and February, but it was too early in the year, too soon, and I just thought, no, I'd be better off March onwards. I had one come up for April, So now the onus is to try and get one as soon as possible, but until I can officially book one with a DVSA site, I don't know when that'll be. But the thing that I'm kind of gutted about more than anything is just the cost. Now, if any of you watch my videos, you know that I'm still currently not working at the moment. I've actually got a possible temp position coming up, but I've got to wait to hear back on that, but that's for another video. So it's the cost, because it's £62 for the actual DVSA test, but then because I don't have a car, I have to pay a fixed 3-hour price to hire my instructor on our car out. So for example, my test was at 11, but I had a pre-test lesson, so I started from 10, and then basically it cuts into 12 o'clock by the time that I'm driven home back, maybe 12:15, 20 past 12. So you have to book for 3 hours, and it's £150. I've seen some outrageous stories of people paying more than that, like double that, and sort of similar prices, but a bit more than mine. So I don't know. It's one of them, and it's like I can't really do much about it. So that was the thing I was more gutted on, is the fact that I've got to. It's not just paying out the £62; it's more like £212. And then, of course, it's April, isn't it? So usually everything goes up now, so it could even be more than that for the next time. And then, of course, I don't know how long we have to wait, which means if it ends up being a long time, I've got to get more lessons in again, which then means if I'm working, great, I've got the money, but then I've got to slot the time. So it's all a ball ache, really, let's be honest. But other than that, I'm keeping positive, and my message to you out there is, if you've got your test coming up, I know it's easier said than done, but try not to stress too much about it. Try and get a good night's sleep the night before as well. Definitely have a banana before, or something like that. Definitely don't perhaps have coffee or anything to, because I'm not really a huge breakfast guy anyway, but I know people that eat like a lot for breakfast, and I think that would just make me way too sluggish. So just keep an eye on what you're doing. Try and keep yourself as grounded as possible. I did hear a tip about, and I do agree with this, that driving lessons are actually harder in a way, because I have, for example, my lessons are an hour and a half. So basically my test was half that. So I was very cognizant of thinking, well, it's 40 minutes, it's half of one of my lessons. And yes, you don't have my instructor sitting there telling you, oh, you did this wrong, blah, blah, blah. But in a way that's kind of good, because you're having to focus more, because it's a bit more quiet. Also, the examiner, at least my one, he pulled the seat back a bit, so I wasn't really aware of him next to me, which was handy, because I was kind of thinking, oh, I'm going to see him scribbling down or marking down in his iPad, whatever. So yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I'm just more, I guess, apprehensive of when I do it again, what's the test route going to be like, what's the driving conditions going to be like. But again, I can't really think too much, it's too far ahead, and I've just got to deal with it on the day. So good luck to anyone who's about to take their test. Let me know how you did in the comments. Let me know if you're someone that passed first time, whether you're someone that's perhaps due to take your test maybe this week or in the near future. And especially I'd like to hear from anyone if you're like me and you really quite struggle with learning to drive, and perhaps you may not have had lots of tests, but you've had like a lot of lessons. I won't give the exact number away, but let's just put it this way: it's in the triple digits as far as lessons. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's it for now, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to have a couple of videos coming out soon. I've had a couple of ideas, so I'm going to hopefully try and film that. I want to do a couple of walk and talks now the weather's decent. In fact, I would have done one today, but I forgot to bring my mic out. So anyway, never mind. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care for now. Thanks for watching, and peace out. And good luck if you've got your test.